This is our Ghanaians are more happier and it is that about to
I'm excited. This is karma, at its best. Though yes, Ghana didn't call it, but if you look at the 10 of events, listen, any Ghanaian who's not excited, I would have a problem with you. This is the Uruguay side that literally denied us qualification to the semi-finals for the first time in the history of Africa. We've also, in a way, denied them qualification to the next round of the competition. And you can see how hurt they are. Luis Suarez, the major culprit in that game. You could see the tears from the entire Uruguayan team. They are complaining. I don't know what they are complaining about, but this is karma sector, with the dessert and everything put together. We're excited. I'm happy, even though we lost. This is about the first time you see somebody win a game, and yet they cry so bitterly as if they've lost. Listen, God, we thank you.
All right, so I was actually expecting you guys to be a bit, down, disappointed. But it looks like you're cut on a later figure.
We are not disappointed at all. In fact, I am very disappointed in Coach Otuadu. Why didn't he play Tariq Lamptey? Yes, he should have played Tariq Lamptey or that Rasta guy. I've forgotten his name. Gideon something. Gideon Mensah. No. But when I watched the game against South Korea, I mean they played very well. I wish I was on pitch to give them some flowers, especially that Baba Kaman guy. Very useless guy. If he's watching me, if he comes to Ghana, I'll beat him. What kind of nonsense play is that? What kind of nonsense play is that? But we are happy. Zanke is Suarez.
It looks like it was Ghana against Luis Suarez and not Portugal.
The thing is, we wanted to play a revenge game. But that's Baba Rahman. And the day you, how can you miss this ball? Jesus Christ! How can you? Right now, what's the thing? I don't know what to say again.
Anyway, so it looks like Kama is been served to the Uruguay.
You can't use that word. You can't use that word. Kama is we can't use it on live TV. But we've served them. I'm excited. Maybe when we get into the game, we could look at, from the perspective of everything that, turned out. But I think that every Ghanaian, this is 12 years ago, I was, some Ghanaians may not have seen that game, but 12 years ago, it was a very bitter experience. I'm sure, when we put everything aside, I'm very disappointed that last time did not go through. I think that is down to basic mistakes from coaching and said, coach, the selection was one cost.
I'll come to Percy, but David, is there anything the Asians are doing well? Because to think that both Japan and South Korea are through to the round of 16 clearly speaks largely of how developed their game has been in the last few years.
The Asians took it upon themselves to grow their game when they had their first taste of hosting a World Cup in
This is far back in 2002.
Since then, you can see their game has grown in strides and bounds. But I checked something yesterday before coming, and in 1998, that was when South Korea made their World Cup debut. Around that same time, South Africa made its World Cup debut. South Korea had made 7 consecutive World Cup appearances. South Africa had only played a World Cup once. Not even just because they hosted the World Cup. It should tell you how lagging we are in terms of development. Prior to the World Cup in our build-up, one of the things we spoke about, one of the questions we tried to find in the institute was, will an African team ever win the World Cup? And then we're not ready. If you look at what has been our athletes here all throughout the recent tournaments, it's going to be a lack of participation, managers not being up to the task of competitors. And today, we lost basically down to a couple of mistakes. Right from the selection, right to in-game coaching, clearly it was down to a trouble. If he had made a few changes, if he had not gone back to work the things that, and also the players should have pressure in the game. And had not been for those mistakes, it could have been a different story. The flip side has got to be the fact that we're happy, we're excited. Like I said, this is the perfect anti-climax we have ever.
Alright, so let's put away the fact that we are happy because we denied your work qualification to the round of 16. But let's get into the game proper. I would want us to figure out exactly what was your doing or what went against Ghana our inability to go past the Uruguayans, because going into the game we stood the better chance of progressing to the next place than the South American. But unfortunately, he beat us 2-0. What went against Otuado and his charges?
You remember when we were doing the halftime preview of whatever happened? I said something about the tweets that the coach is supposed to make. And funny enough, the coach went against almost everything that every Ghanaian would have thought. We're expecting him to rather strengthen our weaknesses. But it was more like he overlooked the weaknesses and rather did not really add anything to the sides, the tweaks that he made. Because the Kamadi he brought in did not really do anything extraordinary as we were expecting. We were expecting that Lucky was expecting that he shifted to a back five, and I was also expecting that. In fact, 99% of Ghanaians were expecting Barbara Mount to be out. And clearly in the second half, a lot of mistakes were still coming from him. It's a matter of we don't really know whatever tactics he was playing. And Lucky also spoke about Partey being the coach sacrificing one of the defensive midfielders. That is Salis or Partey, predominantly Salis, so that Partey will do the defensive work. He didn't do anything like that. Inaki were expecting him to be for him to add another attacker to him. But he kept him on, and when he took him out, he brought another attacker. So it was still a one-top we were playing. So it was like he really did not make any changes. And a layman or somebody with maybe some thought in his mind would think that okay, the IUs were taken off so that there wouldn't be so much passion on them. But that had already been done. I wasn't expecting Jordan to be taken off that quickly, because for everything, at least he could get some in-swingers and the rest. And the coach, this boils down to coaches, because we have always said that this is a group of players that we've never had. Probably on 2006 is the closest we can compare to that. He couldn't do a lot with them. It shows clearly that he's very poor defensively as a coach, because in your 3 matches, you've managed to concede 7 goals. 3-2-2, and this is very bad, very, very, very bad. And it was a very poor World Cup we had, a very poor tournament we had. And I'm seeing that after this tournament, the best thing we are supposed to do is that we reassemble and we try to put things together. But this is like Lucky was saying, you can take away all the negatives. The positive is that we still drag them down with them. This is a collateral damage. We were affected, and we are out.
Okay, so I do not know whether it's really a positive campaign for the Blackstars, but this is a young, maybe like a batting team cut for major exploits in the future. So I would want us to, as it were, put to some of the positives we could take away from this team going into the next year's season.
For example, in the game against South Korea, when you have to go that's a positive. It's always been a player who is struggled to get an why he deserves to have a place in this current Black Star setup. Another positive for me has been Salis Ahmed.
I am just tempted to go into that thinking on the part of Otuado, that what may have informed that decision to, as it were, start Baba Rahman ahead of Gideon Mensah, when Gideon Mensah had an amazing game against the South Koreans.
Exactly why I mentioned earlier that Otuado has himself to blame for a number of decisions, because if you look clearly, if Gideon Mensah had been in that position, I think the number of goals that Uruguayan score would have dealt with it defensively. Today was also an off day for Ali Duseidu and Daniel Amati.
I think going forward was fantastic, but then if he had to do with his defensive duties, he was always every time found wanting.
I think Ali Duseidu today took the Trent Alexander-Arnold role.
Yeah. He amazing busting forward,
going forward, but defensively,
terrible defending.
He was all over the place, and that is where you look at him, and probably he would have to have an inquest in himself. What exactly? Because he was drafted in based on his defensive capabilities. Yeah. That's what he's demonstrated with Clermont 4 in the French Ligue 1 this season. But Today he was terribly off. Daniel Amati was a shade different from what we've known him for. Calm, coolly collected. Today he was all over the place. He looked like the occasion had gotten to them, and I, even as much as I don't want to toe on that line, I think the Black Stars player played the occasion and failed to play the game. And it started right from yesterday when Luis Suarez was thrown into the presser, was asked to speak on what basically a lot of Ghanaians had at the back of their mind, that penalty miss. Suarez made it evidently clear he doesn't owe anybody an apology. We have ourselves to blame. And then we have a penalty today, we go on to miss it. All of that would probably have ring through the minds. That's why I feel we lost the game right from the point where Andrea, you missed that penalty. You could see heads dropped, confidence levels dropped, and Coach Utuadu failed to revive this team. So that's why I want to put the blame.
All right, so I am looking at who then becomes that leader in this, setup. I mean, in regards to Black Stars, because when it mattered most, Luis Suarez may not have scored, but then he played an integral or a mercurial role in Uruguay, emerging as victors 2-0. Andre Ayew, Thomas Tepati, when it mattered most, all of these guys were nowhere to be found. So I'm looking at Black Stars going into or heading into the next major tournament, which is the AFCON, who, would tend to, as it were, lead the team when they come out of the tunnel, because I'm looking at Andre Ayew not being able to be counted on when we go into the next AFCON in La Côte d'Ivoire.
I think that you hit the nail right on the head, and I was having a discussion, online with a friend, and he kept hammering on when we considered the first goal, you could see there was no leader on the pitch. You need somebody to organize the players, organize them mentally, organize them psychologically, whip them up in shape and everything. Because yes, we blew away the penalty. Like David said, it got into their head. I'm sure that replay of what happened to Asamajan got into the heads of the players. And you could see from that moment, Andre Ayew was not himself until he was taken off. Listen, we need somebody who can be a galvanizer, an organizer. I always say that the captain of a team is not necessarily the best player in a game. I've seen Dunga captain Brazil in that 98 World Cup, yet he was not the best player in that team. Cafu captain Brazil in that 2002 World Cup, he was not the best the best player in the team. On most occasions, the best player. You see Jordan Henderson, captain Liverpool, he's not the best player, but your ability to organize the players, get into their heads, and get them to play for the badge. And I think that this game, we were lacking in that. Going forward, who among these players, like you're saying, probably this will be his last AFCON. I mean, he's not ever going to go into the World Cup again. Certain players, this will be their last AFCON, like Daniel Amati. I think that after this AFCON, Daniel Amati may be pushed to retire because of he's been with the Black Stars for long. I think that if we are going to pick a leader, I will not sit here and say who we can, because I look at all these players, like you said, Ghana has arguably about the youngest squad in the World Cup. So clearly, this team is built for the future. It's built for the next 4 years. I said during our preview of the African team is that Ghana, this collection of Black Stars players, talent-wise, collectively, they are the best we've ever had. I mean, the previous Black Stars, you can just count on about 3 or 4. That's it. But this particular squad, from defense to midfield to attack, the talent is spread across board. It's about how to get the best out of them. And that is what we need the next manager to come. The next manager who comes to handle the Black Stars should ensure that Kofi, he gets the best out of these players, because we cannot consistently over the years keep being disappointed, keep failing Ghanaians. Listen, we may laugh at the idea that Uruguay are out, but if let's put that aside, that's just an aside. Truth be told, we should be disappointed that we didn't qualify, because all we needed was a draw. So going into this game, what was the mentality? What did the coach tell them? The players themselves, as the game wore on, what was going through their head? Because all you needed was just a draw, and they would have gone through. Even though South Korea won, Ghana could have gone through because we have scored more than South Korea. We had conceded less. So honestly, I'm a bit disappointed. Very, very disappointed.
Percy, you think it's about time we looked beyond the early stage guys in the team? I mean, Thomas Tepati, Andre Ayew, Jordan Ayew, because we've got a great bunch of young guys within the team. I am looking at we heading into the AFCON to be staged in La Côte d'Ivoire, and looking beyond all of these guys. Have they had enough with the Black Stars, and for which reason we've got to move beyond them?
I have never been a proponent of scrapping away the oldies because the last time in one of our interviews, I spoke about the fact that every team, I even used the World Cup, every team that has won the World Cup, you can even start from 1998, they always had the oldies in it. 1990, if you talk about the French national team, you could clearly talk about Didier Deschamps and all of his likes. They were in it, they were old players. 2002, the Brazilian team, you had old players. Cafu was above 30 in it. You had a Emerson and all as like were in it. 2006, you could talk of Del Piero, Totti, Cannavaro, and they brought the young ones in Gilardino and the rest. Same for 2010, same for 2014, and even with the AFCON, the last time that's everything, we can even start from 2017. Cameroon had Benjamin Mokanjo, who was very old in the team. If you talk about 2019, those who want to, is the same thing. But our problem is that is what has really affected us. We go to a tournament and we fail to deliver. What we do is that we end up scrapping away the oldies and we try to start with the new, which we are never consistent with. That's our problem. We are never consistent with the young ones we try to bring in. You can even just start from 24, even 2010. After we played the World Cup in 2010, in 2014 when we went with the Muntaris and the rest, after 2014 we scrapped almost all of them. By the time we're playing our next World Cup qualifiers, how many could you find? Muntari was not there. You could talk of Asian was not there. We started with the young ones. And the funny thing is that even the last two tournaments we've gone to, that is what we do. We try to retire the old players early. And when the new ones come, whom do they look up to? You could even talk about the fact that with this issue we're talking about, a leader on the field, when Ghana went down, you think if we had a player who was very experienced in the team, he could have at least stood on his toes and motivated them. But what if you go into a tournament, all of the players you bring in are wannabes? Why do you think Portugal is still keeping the oldies? Why do you think they still have Pepe? They still have Ronaldo. Even if Ronaldo leaves the pitch, he gives the armband to Pepe, who is very old, 39 years. He's played 4 different World Cups. But we come into the World Cup, apart from Dede, who had the experience of 2010, whom could you fall on? So let's say if we had about 2 or 3, and they didn't miss the penalty, and there were 2 more who were there when the Suarez issue happened, they could have motivated, but there was no one. So when they called in, there was no one. So I am never for the issue that we should try to scrap them off. No. Those who probably are not up to it, we can probably push them, but we keep the oldies, we bring the new ones, and we merge the two, because no team, and I repeat, no team wins a tournament, a major tournament, be it continental, be it world, with only one abyss. It never happens. I have never seen it. You will always have some experience once in it. So whether Otuado will stay, which I think is very unlikely, whichever coach will come, it is not a matter of scrapping the old and bringing the new. It never happens anywhere, unless you want to do what the Germans do. They do a long-term thing, and even by the time it blooms, there are old players in it. So I think that the oldies should be maintained. You bring the new ones, you merge the two, you get a coach who will be able to fuse the two, and I think we are good to go.
All right, so obviously, David, Kudus Mohammed was our star man. He was a gem. He's been the poster boy, but I'm looking at where, does he go from here? Should he make that giant leap to one of those elite clubs, or you think he should stay put to Ajax for at least a year or 2 and then figure out his next career move, which should be very crucial?
Having played at the World Cup and excelled on the World Cup, there's no much bigger stage than the World Cup, and he's shown he's the sort of player that has the mental fortitude to step up to the stage. It's time I ask catching on him. This is the perfect scenario. If Ajax get a good buy, if Ajax get a good deal for him, just push him out. You can get a good deal in the shape of sell him off, but keep him for the remainder of the season, and then you consistently aid his growth. Because I feel if he moves in January, one of the things that may go against him is his ability to settle within the team. He's just come through on the back of the World Cup. Straight away the leagues would commence. He may not get it right. So I would rather prefer Ajax sell him off, maybe in January. He's coming on a Basel good form. Sell him off for a good cash. Barcelona, Chelsea, Liverpool, whichever club that comes, because those are the clubs reportedly interested. Sell him off, but give them a deal where Kudus stays for the remainder of the season. So he then completes whatever he started with Ajax, and then does the pre-season with his new club. That would aid his development. That would aid his growth. because that would help him settle in. Because coming in on a huge fee, if he moves from Ajax, he would probably not go for less than 60 million euros. If he should leave for 60 million euros in the first 4 or 5 games, he's struggling to hit the ground running. That would mentally affect him. The fans will begin to call out his name. He's come on a huge back end, struggling to find his feet. That would all have an influence on his part. So I feel Kudus should move, but whoever is his agent, whoever directs his transfer, should push for that clause be included where he stays where he asks for the remainder of the season, and then he can move to wherever he wants.
All right, so Lucky, I'm looking at the vilification, the bashing, the lampooning, the likes of Iñaki Williams, Tariq Lamptey, Antoine Semenyo will be subjected to. How are you expecting them to cope with all of those? And then the management of the Black Stars, how should they insulate these guys from all of the bashing, just so they're able to at least psych themselves to, as it were, continue from where they've had to, live it?
Jovi, I think that any Ghanaian who would sit somewhere and vilify Iñaki, Semenyo...
No, Ghanaians do not care, actually.
I know, but they have been very, very unfair.
For now, it's about the merriment of... No, it's about the merriment of, denying Uruguay into the next phase. On the back of the trust tomorrow,
when it's set,
they begin to come at those
maybe
guys.
Not even tomorrow, maybe from Monday going. I'm sure all the, sporting stations and all of that. I think that what as quickly as possible. I'm sure after this
Before
game,
that, can we subject their exploit to thorough scrutiny?
Yeah.
Have they been impactful to this Black Stars team?
I think that for somebody like Iñaki, no. But for somebody like Antoine Semenyo, for somebody like Tariq Lamptey, clearly very, very young. I mean, he's somebody who's yet to even hit 25 years. He's very, very young. For someone like Tariq Lamptey, for someone like Antoine Semenyo, they have literally, justify their inclusion. Iñaki has not been given the opportunity. Though his presence is there, he's not actually been given the opportunity. We know Iñaki, we've seen him, how explosive he is. Yes, he doesn't score goals. I mean, he doesn't hit double figures for Atletico Bilbao. But he's a key contributing factor to the creativity of Atletico Bilbao. That is what you need in certain players, in certain teams. Listen, I mean, there are players in the team. How many times does Thiago Alcantara score a goal? But we know that when it comes to contributing to the build-up and the creativity of the teams he's played for, he's mercurial to it. That is what I'm expecting that the coaches would, exploit from Iñaki, but that they couldn't. I think that what the management should do is that as quickly as possible in their presses, they should speak about how these new boys who were robbed in ahead of the World Cup have contributed not just on the pitch but off the pitch, the knowledge, the insight, the exposure. Because truth be told, Iñaki has seen a lot in terms of global competition compared to somebody like Salis. In terms of they being exposed to playing with the best of the best. The only thing the management could do is try and take up the blame, and so as to insulate the boys from the insult. Like I said earlier before, if you're a football fan and you want to insult or go hard at somebody like Tariq, go hard at someone like Semenyo, how many times was he given the opportunity? And I feel that, listen, this game has proven clearly that we need to find a system. Kofi, teams that have been successful over the years in major tournaments have been successful because they built systems that they thrive. Name them Argentina in that 86 World Cup. Even before that, when Mario Kempes, the 78, Mario Kempes, they built everything good around Kempes. Post that, they built everything good around Diego Armando Maradona. Look at the Brazilians over the years. Look at the Greeks over the years. Look at the Germans over the years. The Spanish over the years. You look at Ghana. What do we do? What is our identity as a country, as a nation? We say we're a footballing nation. What is our identity?
So that obviously fits into my next question, and I would start off with David. So David, I'm looking at the technical direction of the team. I'll come back to you, Percy, but I'm looking at the technical direction post the World Cup. Word on the street was that government was for Chris Hughton, whilst the GFA wanted Coach Otoado to man the affairs of the Black Stars. It is done and dusted now. So I'm looking at Chris Hughton would not be new to the team if he's given the nod. Otoado clearly has shown that he isn't going to be around. I mean, post the World Cup. Are we looking at, yes, this is about time. It's about time we gave Chris Hughton the nod, as it were, manage the Black Stars in regards to his own style, and then have the likes of George Boateng and then Masao Didi Dramani around as his assistant, or we should go the obvious way where we crumble everything and then begin to, bring in a new coach who would expect to, as it were, bring his new identity on the team.
I think we all knew that Otuadu wasn't going to continue right after the World Cup. He made it clear. So there will definitely be a change in technical direction. But to add to that bit of change, we need to find some consistency. That is where whoever would sign that contract or offer that contract would need to have a directive. We need to have certain milestones. We need to have a roadmap for which the next technical leader would to or walk. Because if you look at the Black Stars, like you mentioned, we pride ourselves as a football nation. But save 2010 under coach Milovan Rajevac, post that Rajevac era, we've struggled to have an identity. What exactly does Ghana stand for? What exactly are we known for post 2010? That is why whoever takes up the charge, if it's Chris Hughton, he would need to instill his identity. Yeah. He would need to have this Black Stars. If you look at the Black Stars and Otuado in the year 2022 under review, you can't speak to any particular or specific identity of the Black Stars. You look at the game we played against Uruguay today. We started off as a 4-2-3-1, but after that penalty miss, there was chaos. Everybody didn't seem to know where they were playing. Nobody seemed to know what they were assigned to do on the field of play. This is where you earn your money as a coach, your in-game management. We speak about Graham Potter highly because of what he's known for. He changes tactics at every single moment in time and all of that. So whoever takes over as a Black Stars head coach should have an identity first and foremost. He should be one that knows what he's about. Two, the FA should leave whoever is in charge to a particular timeline. We can't keep chopping and changing at every single moment because consistency is what brings identity. Yeah. So if Chris is going to give him the job, Chris, you are in charge until AFCON 2024 ends. Chris, you are in charge until 2026 World Cup ends. Then from now till 2026 or from now till AFCON 2024, Chris is given the time to build whatever he wants to build. After that timeline or milestone elapses, if he failed to meet the KPIs, he's shown the exit. Yeah. Then we know. Because if you take, for example, Gareth Southgate, when he first took over the job in England after that disastrous Euro 2016, the first part of his contract was to handle the English team until the 2018 World Cup. After that elapsed and they felt Southgate has done enough, he was given the extension to continue until Euro 2020, which was later on pushed a year back because of COVID. After Euro 2020, Southgate was then given another extension. And there's talk of the fact that if he fails to meet the milestones of the World Cup, he may lose his job.
The exit, yeah.
That is the sort of planning we need because that creates consistency. Aliou Cisse has been at the helm of affairs for Senegal for God knows how long. Yeah. With that level of consistency, he's been able to have an identity. He's been able to build a system that is favorable for the Senegalese team, a system that brings the best out of his players. That is where we need to look to. As the Black Stars, we've changed coaches. Right about in the last year or two, we've changed about 4 or 5 people have handled the Black Stars. And if you're a player, yes, I wouldn't want to hold brief for these players. But if you're a player and playing under a manager every 3 or 4 months in the last 2 years, what sort of identity are you shaping your game? What sort of style are you shaping your game towards? Because today you come, the coach wants this. Tomorrow you come, the coach wants that. It doesn't help. Okay. So we need to have an identity. Whoever is going to come first and foremost should be an individual that would be given time to build his identity. Yeah. And we'll mark those words or those identities by certain milestones. If we don't find consistency, then we should probably say goodbye to anything.
Okay, so 3 years into his mandate and under his tenure, we failed in 2 major tournaments. It was a shambolic showing in Cameroon where we failed to progress from the group stage. And then again at the World Cup, in a group that pitted us against Portugal, South Korea, and Uruguay, again we failed to make progression. Can we now begin to put Ket's administration under the microscope?
Is it now that we are going to put him under the microscope? We didn't actually bring him because of intercontinental competitions. We brought in him to make our football better. And making the football better always starts with your league. And when he came, we all know how shambolic our league has become. That even in this World Cup, the appearance fee for players, that is the appearance fee that FIFA is paying the players, is more than what the whole of the team that is going to win the league is going to take. So we know that our league already is shambolic. He has failed on the local scene. And with Continental, when he came, in fact, Ghana performed in the worst. In fact, they had the worst performance in AFCON we've ever had. That when we went into the AFCON, we couldn't even win a single game, and we were trashed by Comoros, who are not known as a footballing nation. So for we putting him under a microscope, it's not now. It's something that everybody knows. Every Ghanaian knows. We battered Kofi Antechi. We spoke against him but for everything we said, we never performed this, but save the 2014 World Cup that we even with that one, we didn't bow our heads in shame like what we did. You can talk about the money issues, but to concede this number of goals and with the inconsistencies of the Black Stars, David spoke about the changes in coaches. It's never happened. In the past 4 years, we've had what do you call it? Kwesi Appiah, CK has come, Milo has come, and now we have, I don't know how many coaches we have, whether it is our main coach or the technical director. We have been changing coaches. We don't know the direction it is in. Even with the team selection, which we always have issues with, that of this year was very bizarre. We even have the extent that even the coach could not even explain to us why some players were not there. He couldn't say anything about it. And I think that for everything to work for us, it is not just the leader of our FA. It is not just the leader of our FA, because we could change the FA heads. We could do it several times, but we brought in a technical director even before we brought in Chris Hughton to write our footballing DNA. And when he was interviewed, he spoke about the fact that he couldn't even gather data. How does he even gather data to even write down? So even on our local scene, or even Ghana as a footballing nation, we don't have a football identity, which we brought in a coach, or we brought the technical director to write for us. We brought in a coach on a part-time basis and paid him full-time, who couldn't even monitor our players, yet was able to get our players consistently to play. So for our FA head, not just the head, but the whole EXCO, they've really, really not helped us. It is something that we are all aware of, but what can we do? We gave them the mandate. But the funny thing is that in our next election, we know football is a very, very dirty game. Even in terms of politics, football is one of the most politically polarized systems. We are expecting a change. We are really, really expecting a change. And we are expecting it from the top. So we are expecting that in our next election, or whatever it may be, this is something that is really supposed to be, because like I was saying, the one thing that was going to give us joy was football. In a country and in the situation that we find ourselves, we were expecting football to really, really, really give us joy. So now we go back to all our issues and all our woes. We go back to that. So we are really expecting that our football that was giving us joy will do, and we are expecting a change with this Kate administration, with whatever has been. The funny thing is that on Monday we will get a lot of should I say pardons from him. The same thing that happened in AFCON. He came and gave us stories and blah blah blah, and it's like the whole circus goes on.
All right, so Lucky, I'm looking at when at all can we get it right? When at all can we get it right? Because the last time out had to be as far back in 1982. Yes, we're not looking at winning the World Cup, but at least do some exploits that would at least give some Ghanaians some hope that in the next AFCON in La Côte d'Ivoire, at least we could make some inroads in there. When at all are we getting it right?
You'll get it right when you properly plan. I keep saying, teams that over the years in major tournaments like the AFCON, like the World Cup, preparations for the AFCON should totally be different from preparations, towards the World Cup. The World Cup, you're playing against the creme de la creme, the best of the best of the best, compared to the African, African tournaments. Some teams may not even allow their players to come. So, how we prepare will determine how we get it right. Listen, Kofi, over the years, we've seen our ill preparation towards tournament. Like David said, you keep chopping and changing coaches, you keep chopping and changing players here and there. what will be the blueprint? The conveyor belt for talent has always been there. Ghana has never been starved of talent. Ghana has never been, constrained in terms of we need a right back. How many people even knew Salidu, Alidu Seidu? How many people knew? But look, he has justified his inclusion in this team. With people say that the local league does not have players. It's not true. We do have quality in this league because these same guys go out there and we'll call them. We do have quality in this league. Where did Majid Ashimeru come from? Did he play in the local league? Talk about a free Barnier. At least he justified his inclusion in the game against Switzerland. The problem is, let us plan towards major tournaments. The beautiful thing is that with a World Cup, you have 4 years, Kofi, to put in place the right measures. As a technical director, as a coach, you need to have a system where you know that, listen, I do not have time with my players. So what should I do when I get the few 2-3 weeks, 2 days with these players? Get in place a proper plan. Kofi, if we want to get it right, we need a plan. A plan where the Germans, listen, before they won the World Cup, Kofi, what they did was that under 20 team, that they actually, in that tournament, that under 20 tournament, that in 2009, watch the players that competed in that 2014. There was Tony Cruz, there was Mario Götze. They kept a core of that under 20 team. It was a project they were building on. People may talk about the failures of this German team for not making it. Watch them 8 years from now. Musarella is young. Watch these. Leroy Sané may have played football for long, but he's a young guy. Do you get it? So watch these players. 2, 3, 4, 5 of them would make up the next German team that would win probably the next 2 World Cups from today, because they are planning. The Canadians we've seen, and the president himself came out that this is a trial phase for they co-hosting with America and Mexico. The best of Canada will be seen in that tournament. These are countries that have projects, that have plans. Listen, let's not just assemble players when there is tournament, we put them together, they play, after that we disband them. There's one thing, Kofi, if I'm sure you've realized about Ghanaians and how we plan. When especially with our junior teams, when they perform or they get to the final or they win the trophy, that's where we probably pick about 5 players, put together and let them join. But immediately they don't perform, all of them, we discard them. But they are quality spread across board. Why don't you decide that, okay, from the under 17, under 20, under 23, we are going to do at least 5 major progressions towards the major national team. That is planning. The coaches of the various teams should create a certain level of synergy, coordinate, get a system where you migrate, or what is it called, you integrate the best of players from the junior team. So for me, listen, if we fail to plan, what are we doing? We are planning to fail.
I don't know.
And that has been the synonymous, what is it called? The anonymous team with everything that we've all been saying here.
David, your biggest disappointment for the Black Stars?
Thomas Terry Partey.
That makes 2.
Thomas Terry Partey.
Exactly.
Cuts it as your biggest disappointment.
Thomas
Everything about our campaign, you think it has to be what? Thomas Terry. What exactly about him makes him your biggest disappointment?
Thomas Terry Partey, in my opinion, underperformed. He spoke about the fact that he's just doing what the coach has required of him and all of that. The stats may say otherwise, that Partey is performing most passes, most tackles and all of that, but that's just for the camera. I feel Thomas Terry Partey could have done more than what we saw. We've seen him this season with Arsenal. We've seen him when Arsenal was without Partey, how Arsenal looked like, and we're expecting him to bring that sort of momentum, that sort of energy, that sort of influence on this team. But he was absent in all of the 3 games that we played. We conceded 7 goals. It should tell you how exposed our defense was. There was practically no shield or guide. Take a cursory look at the 3 starting 11s in those 3 games where we conceded 7. Thomas Terry Partey was supposed to play a pivot with Salih Samed. So it should tell you, for Samed, I'll cut him some slack because he literally just joined the team for this particular tournament. So I may overlook that. But for Thomas Terry Partey, one who is also the vice captain of this Black Stars, he showed no leadership on the field of play. He showed little or no desire or hunger to have an impact On a day where the captain lost his head, you would have expected Thomas Partey to step up and step in, but no. He seemed a man lost and out of sorts. And for me, that sums it up.
Beyond Kudus Mohammed, what can we, point to as very refreshing or anything good about our campaign?
Gideon Mensah, Ali Seidu.
If they are well coached and they are well maintained, and we don't try to do a lot of augmentations in the team because probably one ESCO member wants his player to be in and that, but we maintain the core of the team and we still push them. We get a very great coach. I'm expecting this Ghanaian team or this Black Stars team to really do well. Like I said, we have a lot of young players. They are relatively young players. The oldies are not so old. Dede is old. He's not even around 35. He's maybe in his early 30s, and the rest, as they fade out, you could get Partey to step into the best shape. Not that he will become a leader, because you could clearly see that he was indifferent even when the goal was scored, and you couldn't really see any leadership skills in him. But I'm sure one will spring up. One will definitely rise up, and we should still be behind the Stars team because they really did us proud. This is the Stars team that has produced a lot of goals in relatively very small matches. They've been able to score 5 goals in just the group stage. So I'm expecting this team to really do well. So
it's a general consensus here that we should rally around this team because the team has got lots of prospects in the team going into the future. But you've got some few messages from
I have some few messages from our viewers. So Godfred May says Karma is I can't repeat the other one. Justice Kobe Annan says Otuado should be sacked. Justice Otuado himself has said he's not continuing with the Black Stars, so there's no need to sack him. There's Nana Ajay, who he says Vim Yai, he still believes that listen, the Black Stars, though they've lost, can still do something in subsequent tournament. Papa Loom says, so sad, Black Stars, what happened? He's asking the question, what happened? Then Patrick Ajay says, you people should talk about the players who. And Nicholas Jenfi says, oh, why? What happened, Black Stars? So we have a lot of people that are watching us, and we appreciate your support. We appreciate your comments. Wherever you're doing the watching from, we say thank you very much.
David, I know how exactly you feel. It looks it's a mixed feeling for you.
Rejected.
I can only explain. I understand, but your parting words to our viewers.
Well, I think stick with us. Ghana is out, but we're not done. There's more to come from us as a team. We'll bring you more. The boys have been separated from the men, and this is where we'll also step up to provide you the best of content. So subscribe, drop a comment, make sure you like our videos, and share the link with your friends and family members. Let everybody be tuned in here this World Cup season because the games belong here at Sports 101.
All right, so that's all about it. My name is Kofi Mensah, and I had to do this with Percy Bonnet, Lucky Suglo, and then David Afo. So from us here at Sports 101, have a good evening.